Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about booming and specifically booming in games that have a bit more aggression going in them, some more tempo. And so I've chosen a Chinese mirror match for this one so you can see the difference between 1 and 2 TC, how to defend and how to turn a game around from you playing defensively into playing aggressively. So check out the 2 other videos from this series as well if you want to know more about playing defensively and aggressively. I cover them extensively in those. And yes, let's get into it. When you're booming, you're focusing on rapid expansion. You want to quickly add in those eco bonuses that maybe your Civ allows you to. Now, if you don't think about Civ bonuses, what could it be? Well, it would be such as adding a trade route in. It would be adding second TCs. Those things are eco additions that could be characterized as booming. But the booming playstyle in of itself is a more turtle style where you are focusing on setting up so much eco that you will eventually overthrow your opponent's eco by having way more villagers or traders than them. And so there are some things that you have to do well when you're booming. And these are the following. You have to have a good safe initial defense, meaning you don't want to be taken out by, let's say, early knights or a couple of Shugenus like in this example here. Next one is resource allocation. You don't want to be amassing a lot of resources that you don't need. So let's say you go heavy on wood, but you don't really make any farms or production, and so all of a sudden you have 1500 wood in your bank. You want to avoid those things. You want to gather resources for a reason. So only gather wood if you need to make production, farms, or units that require wood. Gather food and gold if you want to age up, techs, so on. You want to age at the right times. If you age too fast while you're also playing eco-focused, then you will die, because if your opponent's playing just mildly aggressive, then they will be able to do a lot of damage to you because you will have spent so many resources on not making units. And so if you go for example, for 2TC play into a castle age timing, and you're not really getting anything from doing that immediately, then that's going to be really rough for you and not ideal. So you want to be scouting your opponent correctly to determine what strategy you should go for and how greedy you can actually play. Now, you also want to, of course, think about text and so on, but what is most important is the fights that you're going to take. We don't want to make the games too long. And so the fights that we take are fights that we're either defending if we don't really want to take a fight. But when we are wanting to attack is when we can actually resupply a lot of units really quickly. So the whole focus of the booming playstyle is that you set up so much eco and production that at some point you will be able to take fights that are not even good for you, but you can just keep sending new units in because your eco is so good. This does not have to take 20, 30, 40 minutes to get to that point. This can take 15 minutes, 12 minutes, and then you're at a point in the game where you are able to produce way more than your opponent. Alright, let's focus on this game specifically. Here I'm playing Chinese, and I'm playing a 2TC song style. This is a Chinese mirror, and Chinese mirrors can be tricky, but I've found that the 2TC song is best. People will usually do 1TC Shugenus against you, or a castle age timing on 1TC as well. And I scout this very effectively by going in with my scout in the back line, and I see that he's not gathered any stone and he's gone for an archery range, which means he's going to do either some light harass or he's going to try to kill me with Shugenus. So I spot the Shugenus already here when I'm dropping my second town center, but I have my Barbican, a nice initial safe defense like we talked about before, and this will cover the TC placement. You can see the range of it is very large. I want to put the TC on the deer because this will give me a really nice eco boost when I have to defend as well. So TC, not in the middle of your base here. You want to still put it outside on the map. Remember, when you're booming, not to only boom. If your opponent's making units, then you have to make units as well. The focus here is, I know I can defend the second TC, but I have to also make units. So I make archer rangers afterwards to make my own Shugenu. It's easier to defend than it is to attack, especially against Chinese. And so if I have a fewer amount of Shugenus against his large group here, then that will still be okay because I'll have my TCs and my Barbicans to defend. Set up some defenses such as walling here when you have an open flank such as this wood line where your static defenses can't help you. So wall yourself and those resources that you need later on in, but don't do it excessively. Focus on getting units out so you can defend. That's more important. Keep scouting. It's really important that you keep scouting so you can tell what is their plan. So if they are going to go on stone, for example, go check out their stone. If they went for TC later on, maybe they decided that they can't attack you. Also determine, depending on their style and what size of their army they have, if you are up against somebody who plays Shogunus, let's say, or Longbow Rush or something, at some point their mass might stop growing, which would mean that they're either focusing on expanding their own eco, or that they're focusing on getting to castle. And so if you look at this mass here, well, it's actually not really that large, and it's not that many more units compared to last time. And so what is happening in his base is that he's focusing on a little bit of a farm transition. He is now going to go for a castle age timing. So if you look at the resources up here, you can see that he is heavily focused on food, meaning now he wants to go to castle. Now, I overreact maybe a little bit, but I'm not quite sure how big his army size is yet, so I just keep on adding shooters. It's okay that the game goes a little bit longer in feudal for me while he's in castle, as long as I can defend it. Therefore, it's really important you set up military production, but you don't go too greedy, because if he goes castle, it's going to be hard to kill him, because he'll have a better tech advantage. So I try to go in and find a little bit of aggression here. I try to find his army, but I can't find it. And now he ages up. I know that I have to age up really quickly. So what I do is I go on the berries here, I go on the deer and the gold, and you can see my resource allocation, the villagers allocation, is about 24 villagers on food, 14 on gold. And I'm just going to get up to castle as fast as possible. When somebody ages up and you have more units than them, you can usually push them. But if they have a lot of production on age up, they will put out a lot of armored units, for example. And so it can be really difficult for feudal age units to deal with that. Which means you have to fall back. I see the palace guards come in here, and I actually can't really deal with them with shogunus, even though I have the upgrades for them. I can deal with his shogunus down here, and so I take those out, and then I run back to base. I know this guy will now spam palace guards, which means I have to just get to castle as quick as possible. I built my landmark with a lot of villages. I already have my archery ranges, so I can counter his armored units by making crossbows. Now I have to play really defensive, and I've talked about how to play defensive in the previous video, so you can check that one out. But basically here, I'm making use of the way that I've done my base layout by thinking about melee and range units, how they interact with each other in fights. And so, range units, and this is really important, range units can always fire / attack when they are within vicinity. Melee units have to always close in on you, and so what you can do is, because the units they have they clash, so they can't move past each other when attacking, you can stand in and block these small pathways and then have all your units fire all the time. And this is why it's better to defend with range units than it is to defend with melee units. So what you'll find is, when this guy attacks me in a little bit of time, I can have all my crossbows and shogunus ready to defend, but they don't really need to be a superior mass. They will still be able to defend within the base because of the map layout and how melee units have to close in. Go for a little bit of harass always when you're booming. You want to always know what the opponent is doing. You want to see if they're going to go for farm transition. You want to also tell how big their army is. So we see that his army is made of shogunus and palace guards. It's very large. But we also see that he's on berries, meaning he's not super focused on getting farms right now. He just wants to perhaps go for a kill. It's important to harass, to focus their army on their own base. So if you have a smaller army than they do, you can use a couple of units, harass them, and sometimes people overreact. Actually, most of the times people overreact to this, and they will take a lot of their army all the way back and start chasing your units. So if you have cavalry, you can actually prolong your setup time here. So if you got to castle later, you'll be able to push out more crossbows or knights, whilst a few units just do the attacking here. Also, remember to take relics. You also want to always focus on getting more eco advantages going. So in the meantime, just before we talk about this fight, I have, of course, my woodline here. I have my gold here. I've already secured another gold by walling off here. My barbican covered the greater part of my base here, but I have put also my farm transition in the back. You want to always put it in the back, never put it in the front. When you're booming and just playing in general, you also just don't want to put your production in the front. So try to build your base towards the back and then only expand forward when there's no more space in the back. So you can always hide your stuff, or you can have an easier time defending it. So he will have to run through my entire base to get to my farms. But if I put them here, for example, this might be a bad example because not a lot of people will do this, but just for, the example, If you put it in the front, then he's going to easily get access to it. So you can always wall off your farms. You can put towers here. You can use your villages and all these population spots inside town centers, Barbican, towers, villages, to also house your villages when you're under attack. Alright, we have to talk about this fight here, because this is a very crucial part of the game. I have the eco lead, but I don't have the military lead. You can see I'm 42 to 63, but my villagers are almost at 100. We're 16 minutes into the game, and this is where my eco will really start to kick off, and I can feel it when I'm producing military. It's important you have enough production at this point, and it's important that you defend this well. He can either kill you here, or you can defend, and then you can counterattack. We talked about range units before. These pathways here, you will see now that they will start getting blocked by a couple of cavalry units here. So all of these melee units here, they'll have to chew through the units that are standing in the pathways, whilst all of my range units are always able to fire. So his palace guard units will be taken out by all the crossbows in the back, and these shogunus will take out his spearmen and the shogunus he has himself. So you can see this fight is actually pretty good for me, though he gets through now. And so it might get a little bit risky sometimes. Remember, you have the defender's advantage. You can turn villagers into arrows. You can use hand cannons from town center and Barbican to deal a lot of damage to even armored units. And then see if you can get siege out and keep producing. Never stop producing. This is a risky stage of the game, because you can get to a point where he has too many units and you can just camp your production. But if you get enough units out to defend and he stands too long under TCs, you will be able to come back here, because you have the eco advantage. Remember, my farms are not being compromised. My woodline up here is not compromised. Neither is this one down here, really. Nest of Bees comes out. It's getting attacked, but I'm repairing it. So I'm firing down on all the units I can, and all his palace guards are trying to take out the Nest of Bee, which means all my new crossbows come out, and I can just take them out. So you can see they just keep on trying to get it, but they can't. And then I have 2 Nest of Bees, and I've defended this. So now I'm safe again, and I've essentially won the game here, because as you can see, we're at the same military size, but I have 20 more villages than he does. He's still on 1 town center, and he's setting up a heavy farm transition on 1 town center, so that will take a long time for him. I'm already doing very well on farms, and now I can start to think about pushing back. So I'm just fully producing now, and because I have boomed to a really nice stage now in the game, where I have an eco advantage that's much greater than his, I will be able to now push to his base. So I build up some more production here. I send out more and more units, and then I'm gonna push with all my units at once. More siege comes out, so I have a really diverse army composition here. Knights, crossbows, shogunus, palace guards, and Nest of Bees. And then you want to take one more fight here, and then when that fight is done, you will just be able to keep on streaming units forward. So as you can see, I have 70 farmers now. I have 24 on wood, and I have about 23 on gold. So really nice split. You want to focus mostly on food, of course, to produce units. You don't want to go too fast to Imperial, because then you give him too much time to get back into the game. Right now I'm at 126 villages. He's on 87. I have 60 army units. He has 80 army units. So he has a couple of Nest of Bees himself, but mostly palace guards and shugunu. Shogunus and palace guards don't scale very well into the later stage of Castle Age, and so it's better to have crossbows, Nest of Bees, and knights, because they're higher value units that deal more damage. And so you can do a bit of kiting here, use the Nest of Bees and the range units, and then just start firing away here. Don't get hit by siege yourself, and then take a good fight. So selective engagements is essentially you choose when to fight. This is something you can do if you're playing very aggressively, but also if you've defended well and now you are in control of the game again, like I am here. So I have so many resources coming in. I have Yuan Dynasty coming through here, which is essentially aging up to Castle Age for a second time, but I get a really nice bonus for it, because I can do this because my eco is so good. So we take a look at the income per minute. He gets 1500 food, 1500 wood, and 700 gold. I get 1300 gold, 600 wood, and 3500 food per minute. And so this means that I'm just able to produce much more. The most important thing is keep producing, keep building military production, keep expanding your eco, and get those upgrades as well. Always want to get upgrades for your eco, get military upgrades, and then this is where you can just do whatever you want, because you are able to produce so much. So even if this fight is not the best, and I think it's actually a pretty good fight, then I can still keep on making so many units. So I win this fight here. I push forward. I take out the Nista Bees. And then I push him all the way back to his base. So use your booming advantage to set a stage for the victory, and then achieve that victory through a way better eco and production scaling. So you can see here, more and more units come through. I have 60 units to 14 now, and this is where I win the game. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the other videos in the playstyle triangle so you know all the playstyles of AoE4, and so you can use that knowledge in your games when it comes to scouting and reading your opponents and picking the right playstyle for the game and the given situation. If you have any comments or questions, let me know down in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Check out the Twitch stream and check out the build orders, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao.